Before I get into the key things that I'm looking for from this squad this season, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe and notification bell. Best Warriors coverage on YouTube. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What are you looking for? I'm trying to be optimistic. I think we should all be optimistic. It's preseason. Everybody has fresh hope, right? But these are three kind of keys that thinking about the season and heading into that I'd like to see. Let's start with Draymond. For Draymond, I want to see him start taking and making the corner three ball. And you consider Chris Paul, Corey Joe, Kuminga needing an increased role, right? I think that you're going to see Draymond playing in the corner more, off the ball and out of the screen actions at times. And so he's got to get comfortable attacking from the corner, whether that's baseline driving, scooping and dishing, or a little float game. But we all know that the short corner three is usually a higher percentage for a guy that may not be considered a three-point shooter. It's not quite the distance, right? And so, especially when you have not a smooth mechanic, right? That's where range becomes an issue. But honestly, I think that Draymond is the type of guy and the type of player that can do anything he puts his mind to. If he really focuses on it, he'll take and make those corner threes. A big part of it is just mentally being prepared to take it. Like, hey, I'm open in the corner. We've broken the defense down. Take it, right? So I think that that should be a key part of him just being comfortable playing out of the corner. And I expect him to make those. I expect him to be, in the mid-30s and it to, by halfway through the season, we're not like shocked that he hits it, right? It's like, all right, Draymond's hitting the corner three tonight. He's feeling good. Next, Chris Paul and Steph Curry load management. I think it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. We all know Steph wants to play every minute. All these guys want to play all the time, right? I want to focus more on Chris Paul because but I think Steph falls into this category as well. But Chris Paul, that's, I think, what surprised me about the Phoenix run. Because you remember the finals run that Phoenix had against Milwaukee, and they just ran out of gas. They ran out of gas. And you assumed headed into that next season, their revenge tour, the lesson that they had learned was, hey, we got to pace ourselves through the regular season to have enough fuel to finish the job at the end. And they came out like gangbusters. And Chris Paul was playing 35, 36 minutes a night. And I was just like, dang, that seems kind of foolish. And sure enough, again, they ran out of gas even quicker the next season, right? They didn't take that lesson. And Chris, it's you understand it's ingrained in his DNA, kind of that little man syndrome of always trying to prove people wrong and that chip on his shoulder. That's the same thing that makes him great. But I think what he has to understand at this point in his career, there's no shame in load managing. There's no shame in it. It's not like some 28-year-old dude they're putting in bubble wrap and babying, right? Work smarter, not harder. And so keep it at 20 minutes. Take the rest days when you can. And take pride in it and understand that you're going to be ready when it truly matters. And I say that for Steph to a lesser extent, right? Just because Steph, and some of that is out of necessity. They have to lean and need him so much. And hopefully with the depth this season, they won't have to. And Steph will be more willing to kind of fall back and rest his body. But I think that they can lean on each other in that way. Steph having CP and CP having Steph, I think should allow them both to just, even if they're playing in the games, just lighten their load minute to minute. So I'd love to see those two be managed well with their minutes so they're ready to go when it really matters. For Klay, appreciate the little things. Appreciate the nuances of basketball. Stick a screen. Make an extra pass. Talk early on defense, right? And I think that if he took or takes that approach of just being more of a complete basketball player and appreciating, again, the little things, it'll actually improve his shooting. He'll shoot we know he can and how he wants to, because it subconsciously, when you're doing the little things, it alleviates the pressure of the thing that you do best, right? Like when Klay isn't shooting well, you see him try to shoot through it and kind of press because he's like, that's what I do. I'm a shooter. That's what I bring to the table. If you're doing the other little things, it alleviates the pressure of having to make those shots. And usually what happens is you start making those shots. And so I just like to see Klay round out his game and do some of the nuanced things and be a good teammate. Now, for Kerr, get off to better starts. Get off to better starts. That's kind of been ingrained in his DNA as a coach and his teams. And I think that since he's only coached Steph and Draymond, his two true leaders, some of that falls on them, right, in their approach to starting games. But I'm going to put it on Kerr overall. Have these guys get off to better starts. How many times do we start a game and it's like a 12-point hole, right? And then again, you talk about the load management, that disrupts that. And so I'd like to see him do that and focus on, they kind of like to feel games out. But again, maybe that's just their personality. It's not changeable. Perhaps Chris Paul can help the Warriors get off to better starts. Does he need to start in order for that to happen? I don't know. But that would be my kind of homework assignment for Kerr. Like, let's not immediately have to start playing catch up, right? So yeah, those are my early thoughts on just things I'd like to see moving forward. They got the Lakers again Friday? Maybe LeBron will play. You see it, Underdog Fantasy. We're going to have a lot of fun playing all year. I'm going to be giving my pick'ems. We're going to be playing fantasy. You can get 100% bonus on your first deposit using my code. Did you see Wemby's debut? Did you see Wemby and Chet? I was late to the party, but I watched it late last night. This is my pick'em for the week here. It's a season total higher, lower, right? First, I'm going to go the number 2 pick, Brandon Miller. I'm going to go higher than 14.2 points per game. He was impressive in his debut. My reasoning behind that is, look, they're going to start him over Gordon Hayward, which they should, right? They should at where they're at as a franchise. He's going to shoot a ton of threes, and the pace that the Hornets play with LaMelo, it's a track meet, right? So the scores they're going to put up a lot of points. Other teams are going to put up a lot of points, but I think he's going to get higher than that 14.2. Now, with Wembanyama in that debut yesterday, I was impressed, but in the same pick'em, I'm going to go lower than 8.8 rebounds per game this season. And this is what I wanted to get into, talking about Wemby here. I liked what the Spurs were doing, having him leak out and run, because I think it's an easy way to get him points and keep him from getting too thirsty offensively and kind of just, taking too many bad shots. It's like, hey, you got 6 points off 3 dunks on runouts. So now you can just be a little more modest offensively. I think that that's a smart approach from Pop in the Spurs. But again, under 8.8 rebounds, I don't think he's going to rebound a ton. Obviously, the frame is slight and he likes to and can play out on the perimeter. They're having him leak out. I don't think the rebounding is going to be where people would hope it would be. But overall, the fluidity, I like that he moves efficiently, right? The obvious concern is his body and the durability, which I am very concerned about. Hey, like, we're going to see, right? But the thing that I think he has going for him is he moves very efficiently. Like, it's fluid, and he doesn't really try to elevate. There's no need to elevate. He just kind of elongates, right? He doesn't really jump. So I think that that's going to lend itself to longevity. I'm curious to see him in a zone. Pop's going to roll out a zone with him sitting at the rim. That's going to look crazy. You saw some of his closeouts and dig downs and just the freakish nature of his body. The thing that I'm curious about with Wemby is guys are going to figure out pretty quick, you got to get into his body. Did you see, I think it was, who was it was it Dort? Somebody slashed across the lane and thought they were going to just scoop up a little left-handed layup because they beat him bad, right? They beat him bad on the perimeter. And he was like, nah. He's like, I'll just meet you there. So you're not going to be able to like get around him or shoot over him. You got to get into his body. And I'm curious to see how he holds up and how he responds to guys like Ant Edwards come flying in and just shoulder charge into his body. Is Wemby going to be willing to stand in and take the charge? Is he going to contest? I'm curious to see his mentality with that. But all in all, just the fluidity of him was impressive, man. And the shot looks good. I think for him offensively, the less dribbles, the more efficient he'll be. You just one dribble pull up and having him kind of move and get to his shot, the shot looks good. When he tries to mix and dribble with the ball, I think that's when he gets in trouble, because for him to even drop his hips and dribble the ball and then get back to a shooting position is asking a lot, right? What else about the Spurs? The Spurs are looking real Spursy again all of a sudden, right? There's been a few years here where they weren't Spurs-like. They had to get the clown DeJounte Murray out of there. I don't blame them for that. But you look at the roster, Jones, McDermott, Chetty Osman's put on a clean 30 pounds. Like, I don't know what he was. hanging out with this offseason Zion or something, but he was like, but right, Devin Vassell got a big deal, well-deserved. I loved him coming out of Florida State. But right, you look at the personnel and they all seem kind of like Spursy, the big kid, Keldon Johnson, right? All of a sudden they have pop-like Spurs guys around Wembanyama. But I'm just curious to see how they deploy him. I don't think the rebounds will be where we think they'll be, but I think he'll be pretty efficient offensively with the leak outs and not letting him have the ball too much. I'll be back here Saturday to talk about the second preseason game and some other takes around the league as we're getting to see some of these young players and the new looks of these teams. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.